Y'all ready? That's okay. You ready? All right. I'd like to welcome you here tonight. We're just a couple of minutes away from beginning our meeting. And before we begin, I'd invite you to stand and join me in the pledge, and then Rick Evans will bring the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you again, Lord, for bringing us all here safely tonight. We want to pray for our country, and we pray for our city and all of our city employees, Lord, and we pray for this council to give us the wisdom to do what is right for the citizens of Springdale in all of our decisions we make. Keep us all safe in our travels tonight, go back home, and keep us all safe in the year to come. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rick. All right. I'd like to again welcome you to tonight's regular meeting of the Springdale City Council. This is Tuesday, January 28th, 2020. We do have large print agendas available. Marcia, are those in front of you? Okay. If that would be helpful to anyone, feel free to get one. So again, we call this meeting to order, and I'll ask our city clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Sprouse.
Here.
Amelia Williams.
Here.
Jeff Watson.
Here.
Mike Overton.
Here.
Colby Fulfer.
Here.
Mike Lawson.
Here.
Rick Evans.
Here.
Brian Powell.
Here.
Kathy Jaycox.
Here.
Ernest Kate.
Here.
All right, thank you. And before we roll into our public comment section, I'm going to turn it over to Ernest Kate, our city attorney. He has a presentation that I know we'll all want to participate in.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Cindy Horlick to come be recognized. At the end of this week, Cindy, we're going to have an era end at the city attorney's office. Cindy is going to be retiring. She's been the paralegal administrative assistant in the city attorney's office. She first started with Jeff back in January of 1987. And I've had the pleasure of working with Cindy since 1998. A city attorney since January 2013. So I wanted to properly recognize her for her service not only to the city attorney's office, not only to the city of Springdale, not only to the citizens of the city of Springdale, but to me personally, because you will be missed. Mm-hmm. So we have a small token of our appreciation, and I know Judge Harper probably wants to say a few words as well. So enjoy your retirement.
What to say? Okay, that better?
That's
There.
better.
I'm short, sorry. I don't know what to say except that it's been my pleasure to be a part of city administration, or whatever you want to call it, city attorney's office. I've loved every minute of it. I have been very blessed to have my position. I've been very blessed with wonderful bosses. We all have our good days and bad days, but most of them were good days. I'm going to miss my extended family, but I will be back to visit. I want to see this new building they're building. I'm excited about that. I've kind of been watching them put every single piece of steel on it recently, and it's been fun to watch. Springdale has been home for me for a long time, until I recently got married, 10 years ago. But I raised my children here. They went to Springdale School, Springdale High School. They both graduated with honors and went on to the University of Arkansas, and I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of the city attorney's office. I can remember when I first came down here, I told Jeff, I said, I don't know what I'm going to do now that we're not in private practice and being city attorney. And he goes, oh, that's fine. We'll find something for you to do. Boy, did he. But I guess that's about it. Thank you all. Thank you, Ernest.
Cindy,
and
thank you,
my
and
fellow people.
and please join me again. And that's 33 years, right?
33 years, yes.
33 years.
I came here on January 16th, 1996, so 23 years in this building.
All right.
Mayor,
Well, Cindy, yeah, go ahead.
this is really a babysitting award for having to raise Harper and Kate.
He's
Please
been
join me in
good.
recognizing Cindy one more time. Cindy, will you walk and let us? Jeff, Judge, go ahead.
I just want to say a little bit about her. I got elected in November. She went to work for me in October of '86 in my private practice. We were part-time till '96 when we came to City Hall full-time, but my whole 26 years she worked for me. And we wrote every manual in this city, the operations manual for the police department, the personnel and procedures manual they still have. We had no HR department. We had no IT department. She devised the first website that any city attorney in this area had, and we had all of our forms on it, and that was long before we ever had an IT. She helped me with all the training programs for the police department, and I can't state it enough how much she's done for the city. I'm gonna miss her. I haven't been with her. I've been close to her since I've been judge since 2013, but what she's done for the city cannot be overstated.
Great.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Judge. Great. All right, we are at item 5 on the agenda. This is the portion of each council meeting that the council sets aside to hear comments from our residents. If we have any citizens that would like to address the council, we ask that you come to the microphone, clearly state your name and address. Please keep your comments brief, understanding that we won't take action on anything you bring forward tonight. So is there anyone that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not on tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, the approval of minutes. Council, if you're, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item 7, procedural motions. What's your pleasure, council?
Move for A and B.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for A and B. Roll call, please.
Howe.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 8-0.
Sir?
I just have a comment. I would like,
Please come to the microphone and give us your name and address.
my name's Bart Hudspeth, 235 Kennesaw Street. We are in relation to item 12B,
Uh-huh.
and we have a petition signed by 55 people that some of them couldn't be here.
Right.
And I think with that much opposition to that you shouldn't adopt the emergency clause and
Well,
let that.
and I appreciate that, but that's all discussion we can have when we're considering the item.
Yes, sir.
Okay? This opening comment period is just for items that are not on tonight's agenda.
That's
Right.
on the agenda, and you just voted on the emergency clause for that particular one.
No, we didn't.
No.
Well, you did A and B, and
No,
B
sir.
says 12A through 12E.
No, 7A and B.
We didn't vote, we
We're
didn't
on
approve an
7.
emergency clause, sir.
Okay.
No.
You'll have an opportunity at
Yeah,
number
you'll
12.
have plenty of opportunity to speak. That's all right. All right. Item 8 is a resolution, I'll go ahead and read it, a resolution making a reappointment to the Public Facilities Board of the City of Springdale. This is a resolution that would reappoint Jim Crouch to the Public Facilities Board. I don't know if Jim's here tonight.
I'll
But-
move the resolution pass.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and second. Any other discussion or comments? All right, Denise?
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Howe.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you. Item 9, I'll also read a resolution approving an appointment to the Springdale Planning Commission. We okay?
Backwards on here.
We have a new appointment that I'm recommending to the Springdale Planning Commission. He's here tonight, and certainly would have a chance to hear from him if you want, or if Howard, if you would like to say anything, you're certainly welcome to. But Howard Austin is here. We'd like for you to at least stand and let us see who you are. Come on up, then. Come on up.
I'd like to thank Mayor Sprouse for appointing me to this position. I've been in Springdale since 2006. I'm an elementary PE teacher, and I hope to do the best I can for the citizens of Springdale.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you.
Thank you for your interest in the position. Patsy and I have met with Howard, and kind of gave him our best shot at what all he's getting into. But we really appreciate your willingness to serve. That's a very important position. And that's my recommendation, and I've read the resolution.
I'll move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, oh, I can't do that. Roll call.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you. And I need to mention also, Howard is replacing a longtime planning commissioner, Vivi Haney. And we certainly, if you see, I don't think Vivi's here tonight, but when you see Vivi, we want to thank her for her years of service. She's served very well and been a very hard worker on our planning commission. All right. Item 10, I'll also read a resolution making appointments to the Public Vehicle Commission of the City of Springdale. We talked about this briefly, I believe, in committee. And Kathy Jaycox has served on that commission. It needs to be, they need to be, all the three positions need to be reappointed. Those are council members that the council appoints, and my recommendations are to appoint Kathy Jaycox, Amelia Williams, and Rick Evans.
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Denise?
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
Thank you. And item 11, another resolution. This is making an appointment to the Springdale Airport Commission. Greg Willoughby has tendered his resignation to the Airport Commission. We had an opportunity I extended an invitation to Micah Thomason, who is a former airport commissioner, and but because of at the time you had to be a Springdale resident to serve on our airport commission. That's since been changed. Micah did a great job while on the airport commission, and he really enjoyed it and jumped at the chance to serve again. So, but he does live outside the city limits. So that is my recommendation. This resolution I have read and entertain a motion to approve.
Move resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any further comments or discussion? All right, Denise?
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
Okay, I'd like to also again thank Greg Willoughby for his many years on the commission and for his hard work over that time. Item 12, Planning Commission report and recommendations. Patsy Christie, Director of Planning and Community Development. Patsy?
As you can see from the agenda, it's been a pretty busy Planning Commission time. The first item on the agenda is a request to rezone property located on Jean George Boulevard, just north of Deering Road. What we're asking for is rezone the property from A1 to a plan unit development that has 3 different property owners. These are all being consolidated into one tract. You will see in your packet, because this is a PUD, that there is a plan unit development document that goes along with this. It sets out all the terms of the PUD itself. It will be a development that is done in 2 phases. The first phase will be high-density residential development on a portion of this. The second phase will be the commercial portion that's along Jean George Boulevard. I think the phasing is kind of a little bit of a loose term, because I think as it moves forward, it's going to go a lot faster than what they thought it was going to have. You see here on this slide the actual layout of the plan unit development itself. We are adopting this plan unit development with this site plan in place in this plan unit development plan in place. So it's the closest thing that we get to a contract zoning that we have in Springdale. You'll see at the bottom of this, there are each of the different kinds of buildings that are going to be included in this layout. If you go to the next one, there are some slides of what the actual buildings themselves will look like. Being in the overlay district, they have to meet the requirements of the multifamily design standards and the overlay district itself. And let me tell you, this is one of the easier projects we've worked on lately. They've worked really hard to go through all of those design standards and all of those things that make for a great development. You'll see that each one of the buildings, if you can just keep going, different size, different style buildings, different kinds of apartments that are going in different ones, even their service buildings and those kinds. Some of the apartment units will have garages, those kind of things. It's a good mixture of different kind of housing at this location. I think there's a couple more. You'll see a larger building. All of them have the stone as required in the overlay district itself. Different configurations, different layouts. If you go back to that site plan, you can see all of the different locations that has gone through there. Planning Commission reviewed this rezoning request and recommends approval of the PUD itself. I can go into more details if you want to, but they're included in your packet. The title of the ordinance reads, "An ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto, by rezoning certain lands from agricultural district A1 to planned unit development PUD and declaring an emergency."
Move that the ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions or comments by the
I have
council?
one question, Patsy. In the ordinance itself, there's some handwritten notes. Is there a reason it's presented that way?
It's incorporating the plan by reference, and we'll add that language to the
Okay.
ordinance.
We'll add that language, yeah. We wanted to make sure that these documents actually become part of the ordinance itself. The PUD document itself that you got in your packet and that site plan. So that if there are changes made to it, it has to come back before the Planning Commission, back to the City Council to change it. So we all know that, and we didn't get all the references made to it. Like we
That's
should
okay.
have.
I've never seen it presented this way.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I asked the question.
We'll fix it.
That's all right.
So looking at the permitted uses, there's several of them in there.
Uh-huh.
Are all these going to be a part of this?
That's the only uses that are allowed in this planned unit development. They are limited to the, let me see what page that is. Citywide public uses by right, high-density residential, office studios and related services, eating places, hotel, motel, and entertainment facilities, neighborhood shopping goods, and parking lots. But what you see is what the uses that are on the plan itself. Now, the hotel motel is for some entertainment facilities. They have some restaurants that will have entertainment features with them, like a bar with a patio, something like that. It has to come in as a use unit 18, as opposed to just a regular eating place, as those are concerned. But what it shows on the plat itself is the only thing that can go in there right now. Similar to what we did at Harbor Meadows.
Yep.
Same kind of thing. Yeah.
All right.
But this will have single ownerships. They're not dividing it into lots for it to be sold as separate lots. It'll be all one project.
So does this touch Don Tyson? The
The actual frontage, their access onto Don Tyson or Deering Road as it is now, to give them a second access point. They will have one access point off of Jean George, and you'll see that on that drawing it comes out to where the extended Don Tyson Parkway will go through.
Right. So is that where the planned Don Tyson?
Yeah, coming right out of you see the roundabout in the
Right.
corner, and you go straight on to the west, and it'll have their
They're on
entrance
the
on that
left.
side.
Will we be
That'll be the
buying
future
right
Don
of way?
Tyson.
No, it'll be dedicated with the plat that comes with this.
Already shown as.
They've already been
dedicated
told they
right
have to dedicate the right-of-way in conformance with the design plans for that piece of property, and it's already shown on there. Now, we'll get, a large-scale development plan that shows the buildings as they're being developed, and the dedications will be done as the project moves forward, but yes, it'll be dedicated.
And what's the water I assume that's the blue spots or?
They have detention facilities that can be used as water features. I think, I don't know that they're going to be ponds for fishing. Yeah. And aerated, yeah. And it has a dog park, it has several amenities that goes with it as well.
Any other questions? Anyone in the audience need to speak to this one? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote.
Wolfer,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes. Move the emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 8-0.
These ordinances come with emergency clauses because there are pending actions to be taken, transactions, sales of property, and projects to move forward. That's why they have an emergency clause. The next item is a request to rezone 15 acres located on Old Missouri Road, approximately 1,000 feet north of Don Tyson Parkway. The original request came in was to rezone the property into two different categories. If you'll go to the next slide. It will have, they proposed two C5 tracks that would have frontage on the highway, on Old Missouri Road, and the remainder would be rezoned to MF16. Planning Commission heard comments from the adjacent property owners that were concerned about buildings too tall right adjacent to those single-family homes and the ability to look over into the backyards. So after discussion at the Planning Commission, the developer was asked to make a revision to their rezoning request to do an MF12 adjacent to those residential areas where the height limitation is 35 feet, which is a two-story house, to cut down on that privacy invasion to the adjacent properties. The applicant agreed to do that, and what you have tonight and in the ordinance is that revised request to rezone the property from A1 to C5, MF12, and MF16. Planning Commission reviewed this revised request. We got the revised legal descriptions. We've been over those. If Chief, if you go to the next drawing, you'll see how that plays out. Planning Commission recommends approval of this rezoning request. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the City of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto by rezoning certain lands from Agriculture District A1 to Thoroughfare Commercial District C5, Medium Density Multifamily Residential District as amended MF12, and Medium High Density Multifamily Residential MF16, and declaring an emergency. And you'll see the different legal descriptions along that border around both of those properties, which would restrict the height of the buildings to nothing taller than 35 feet.
I move the ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Other discussion or questions by the council?
Want to hear people first?
Yeah. You want to hear them first?
Yes.
Yes, I
Okay,
would
well, you
agree.
can always come back in if
I wouldn't do that, Mayor.
All right. Anybody in the audience like to speak to this one?
Hi, my name is Kathy Hudspeth. I live at 3235 Kennesaw Street. I
Kathy,
can't really see.
Okay, I'm
that.
hearing you better now. Make sure you speak right into that microphone.
Okay,
Thank you.
I am. What concerns us is the multi-housing right behind our homes. And I appreciate the zoning commission for kind of tweaking it a little bit. But when we moved to Springdale and we were looking at property, we loved this. There was a big field out there. Yes, we knew it was A1. We knew it was not going to stay A1. So what do? We looked at your the land use plan y'all adopted for that area, and there is a buffer zone in there that is C1 neighborhood. I wish I could have him show you this. Can I just pass this around?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. All right. There is the area that we're talking about. Okay. And, so when you come into Springdale to buy property and you check the perimeter and the zoning and you see something like A1, well, you know it's not going to stay A1 in the city of Springdale. So then you go to the land use plan. That's your only other option. And I know it's not, I don't know whether it's called official. It was approved. So you look at that and you make a judgment, hopefully an educated judgment. So what this is doing is saying, we're not really looking at this plan. We're not going to go by what they suggest. So what does this say to homeowners coming into Springdale? Are they to be assured of what they're buying, what's going to be built around them? So we're asking you to go with your land use. We understand the commercial part, but right up to our backyards is just a little much. And that doesn't even cover the traffic, right? I know there's apartments going in on Electric Avenue and Oreo. I think there's some more, multifamily 16, I believe. So that you are concentrating Ward 2 with apartments. Someone said, well, not all apartments are going to have children in them. We have, in Ward 2, we have 13 schools. And if you'll look at the ward maps, which I colored in, you can see where the majority of our population is moving. Ward 2 is not a large landmass, but with 13 schools, 7,459 students enrolled in these schools, and you bring in this much more multi-housing. Not all of them are going to have children, but at least 50%, plus the new building along Don Tyson. And they're single homes, but there's been, 50, 75, 100 new homes built in this area. So we're just asking you to not approve it, really. And I realize city progress must go on, but you look at some of the other wards, there's nothing going on there. It's all being concentrated in this particular area. So, are you going to talk about time limit? Okay. Do you have
Thank
any
you.
questions about that map?
Any questions?
Okay, and that's just a short, that's just an enlarged portion just where we're talking about.
So this part right here, along Electric and Oriole, is
Yes.
this what you're concerned with?
No.
No?
No, it's this one up there. It is.
The one she's talking about is coming
Got
up
it.
next. That's this one.
And I don't know whether you want to even see the petitions that we had.
I think they need to be part of the record.
We can sure,
Okay.
we can sure make them part of the record.
All
Sure
right.
will. Thank you.
Pass those around. Anything else?
There may, if they may have a question later, and you can come back. Yeah.
She's the better half. I'm Bart Hudspeth
I'd say it
again.
might be more than 50%.
Yes, sir. You're right.
Bart?
Bart.
Okay, thank you.
Bart Hudspeth. We live at 3235 Kennesaw Street. And our back fence is on this property. Okay? Two or three things. We talked about, just in simple terms, Ward 2 is the smallest land-wise ward in the city. Now, I don't have the figures because it's just general figures, but 7,459 students go to school in Ward 2. Ward 1 has 2,600. The next closest ward has, okay, I'm sorry. Ward 1 has 5,700, I'm sorry, with 4 schools. Ward 2 has 13 schools. Ward 3 has 4 schools and only 2,374 students. Ward 4 has 9 schools and 6,400 students. We're getting a concentration by being chopped up. You know, you came up, I don't know how much money you spent in 2010. It was 2012 before you adopted your land use, you know?
We do that every couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the last one was in 2012, okay, that we could find on the internet. It was adopted in December of 2012. The one that's on the
Nancy, can you make sure?
We're talking about ward boundaries?
No, we're talking about land use.
land use.
Well, it's reviewed every 2 years. We do not update it or make major changes. But we are looking at it again this year. We look at it in even-numbered years. We're starting that process now. We invite all of these groups in to talk to us about their development plans, those kind of things. I mean, we've been doing it a long time.
And let me, just for a second, don't let me get you off your train of thought here, but the ward boundaries are determined
Oh, they have to be.
after the census, so we'll be doing that again, the council will be doing that again, probably in 2022.
I served on the
2021.
city council in Harrison,
Yeah.
so I'm
So,
quite, for 8 years,
Yeah,
so
and
I'm aware.
having been a former school board member, they take many things into consideration when they build a school. First of
I
all, it's
understand.
available property.
Yes, sir.
That they can, but they also do follow the population and trends as much as they can with property that's available.
I understand that.
When you redo the ward boundaries every 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
then it stands to reason that growth is going to change and
Right.
some will get a little
10
heavy.
10 years ago, it stands to reason that there were more housing units in Ward 2 than in any other ward in the city. And it also stands to reason that if the last land use was developed in 2010, that it's been looked at 5 times and hadn't been changed. And they suggested residential commercial, not apartments. You know, we have had a neighbor who complained and complained and complained, and finally the city police department came out and did a study and did the radar and so forth, and it shows an average of 826 cars coming up Paradise and across, or Palisades, I'm sorry, and then coming into our subdivision on Kennesaw and either turning on the 2 streets that come off that, because it's a shortcut. We asked that at least they put in speed bumps, and they came back and said that it's been studied and there wasn't enough traffic to justify speed bumps. So, you know, that's where we are. That was done in 2015. So we'd like to, we have 55 people that couldn't be here, some are here, but we had 55 people that signed the petition asking this not to happen. Now, they're mainly in the subdivision that's where we live, and we couldn't make everything. You know, we had 7 days from our official notice, 7 business days from our official notice certified letter until the zoning commission meeting. We had 15 business days from the zoning commission meeting time till this meeting. And it's not been a whole lot of time to be able to get anything done or do anything. Okay? Now, that being said, if you do approve it, we'd ask that you don't approve the emergency clause. There is no reason that this couldn't be waited for 30 days and looked at. I personally think that you should have put that ordinance for reading 3 different times and then adoption, which is the normal procedure, but you voted not to read it on 3 separate occasions. Any questions? We have concerns, real concerns about the property value. We've been told by every single realtor we've talked to that that's going to reduce our property values. And it's been argued that that won't happen. Well, I don't know. It has in other areas. And we're also getting saturated with apartments.
Patsy, where are you?
I'm sorry?
That's what I was going to ask. Patsy, what are the projections? I don't think you can answer
I don't
this.
have a projection.
No, I'm asking Patsy what the
Oh.
projected numbers of cars or people will be in this area if this is approved.
We didn't ask for them to do a traffic study on
No,
it.
not a traffic study. When you have a one-bedroom, a two-bedroom, three-bedroom, I mean, aren't there some numbers you could project how many people, if it was fully occupied, would be traveling through that?
We probably can, but that wasn't done.
I don't know that you can identify
Yeah,
how
I
many
don't-
would take
I
which
don't know.
route.
No. How many would live in this?
How many would live there, we could probably figure out.
That's what
Yeah.
I was asking.
Jason, can you tell me how many units? I don't have that with me because we're talking about the density not to exceed 16 units per acre, and I think they're I know they're under 16. 168 units is how many they're talking about.
And are they one, two, and three-bedroom units?
Mostly two.
And how many of each?
They're mixed, one, two, and 3-bedroom units. There's 4 1-beds, 6 2-bedrooms, and 4 3-bedrooms
And that's the buildings.
for the building.
That's
For the buildings that have those in there, yeah. And they meet all the multifamily design standards with the large scale that we saw, the additional open space. In order to get that higher density, they had to provide open space and amenities to get to that with the large scale development plan that's there. This property doesn't have access through that subdivision. Everyone coming and going from the subdivision will do it on the highway, not through that subdivision itself. Now, that's not to say people's not going to cut through subdivisions, because we know that happens. If those of you who've been around a while, one of the reasons that Don Tyson Parkway got approved was people were cutting through neighborhoods to get across town. So we know that it has taken some of that traffic off there. But can I say nobody's going to cut through, because people do that all the time, you know. But it is laid out so that the total access is off the highway itself, not through the subdivision.
Patsy, sir, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to ask Patsy another question. And I apologize. I missed a lot at the very first of what you were talking about, how it was amended.
Okay, they came and asked for the entire tract to be rezoned to MF16.
That's what they wanted originally?
The original thing, except for the two C5s along the front. Those haven't changed.
Okay,
The difference being in an MF16, there's no height restriction.
okay,
And there was concern from the adjacent property owners about those 3- or 4-story buildings being right adjacent to their property lines.
Okay.
So they were asked to reduce the rezoning along those property lines to MF12, which means
Now,
no
we don't
building.
have an actual drawing of that?
Yeah, there is, and the legal descriptions you have in the ordinance, so
Right
you'll
there,
see
Jim.
that. It's a 50-foot strip all the way around
And those are
on the north and the
MF12?
west side, so that they cannot be, they're MF12, and they can't be any taller than 35 feet.
But is there room there in those little strips to build something on them?
Well, and there are some buildings that could enter, could go into that area depending on
But
how
they'd
you
have
lay
to-
it out.
they'd have to
But they
be
can't be any
MF12.
taller. They can't be any taller
Then,
than 35 feet.
They'll still have the setbacks that are.
They'll still have the same setbacks. There's a utility easement along there. But, we look at a project that goes with this, with the rezoning. If that project doesn't go through, what we want to be able to is the next project that comes in, it has to be designed so those buildings that are adjacent to those houses can't be any taller than 35 feet.
okay, and the property along Palisades that's not developed, how's that zoned?
It's zoned commercial, and I know we have a large scale that was approved several years ago that is in the process of being
And is there any
revived.
chance that when that's developed, that would be putting a road from Palisades into this,
There's nothing, into that,
into the development?
no.
That would not happen?
They could connect from that piece of property into the C5 and come across that way. There's no reason why they would, because they got direct access to Palisades. Why would they want to come back through
I don't know.
the
I'm just
other?
asking.
We have asked in the layout, the current layout that we have, it would have that center access point, and there would be a second access point on the southern part of this. so that there's two ways for the traffic to get in and out to meet the fire code.
Across the C5.
Right, on the south side of the C5,
So
right.
go to Don Tyson.
It would actually come out to 265. It doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Its
Okay.
only access for this piece of property is to the highway. You can't get to anything else as it is now, anyway.
And I wonder, is that going to make difficulty getting on and off the highway there?
Well, it's going to be a challenge because there's a lot of traffic on 265. But that same challenge of getting in and out would be whether it's all single-family homes, whether it's multifamily, the commercial that's there. It is what 265 is what it is today. The land use plan that was addressed, keep in mind, it doesn't set boundaries. It sets areas. In theory, this entire piece of property could go commercial because we show commercial along the highway itself. It could go single family. I don't think we're going to see single family development coming in there off of a single access because you wouldn't get very many houses in there. It could happen. The proposal we have before us is to do multifamily at this location with commercial along the road.
What about the fencing on this?
They will be required to do screening. I can't tell you what it is off the top of my head, but that is addressed with the large scale. It'll have a privacy fence all the way around it. It'll have detention ponds in it because all of the stormwater has to be detained on site. The commercial areas will have to be screened from the other areas.
It looks as if some of the homes on Kennesaw, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm looking at an aerial view, have a second story.
Some of them may have,
I don't know of any. I've never seen one. I've been in there a lot.
I don't know. They may just have high peaked roofs. I don't know. We didn't look into that kind of stuff.
Does anybody else want to?
Sir, you've been standing there a while.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm not as organized as my neighbors.
Let's get a name and address, please.
Oh, Robert Eicher, 850 Palisades Avenue, Springdale, Arkansas, 72764.
Thanks, Robert.
I'm just speaking to the traffic. It's a major issue because it's just the path of least resistance. It's psychological. You have the intersection, you've got Don Tyson, you've got Old Missouri, then our neighborhood. And a lot of the neighborhoods around, there's like a racetrack. You know, it's a closed circle. You go in and you don't live there, you're not going anywhere else. It's not so with ours. It just goes right through. And the traffic has gone way up. And it's ridiculous. And so the idea that you'd be bringing in more people and that there wouldn't be a substantial increase in that traffic is just, it doesn't stand up to logic. It's just you're bringing in more people who live in that area. You're going to have more traffic. You're going to have more path of least resistance. Because, traffic lights is like, I have to wait. It doesn't matter if they actually save time or not. They think they do because they're not waiting at a light.
Because they're moving, yeah.
And that's just really the other. And the other question is there anything we can do to close off our neighborhoods and make them, because the argument was police and fire. Well, I've noticed if the fire department has anything to do with, because it's technically two neighborhoods. They live in the Kennesaw area and we live in the Palisades area, and technically we were rural. And so technically it should be two closed circles, it's two neighborhoods, but there's not, and that's what makes it a cut through. And that's where all the traffic comes from. And the argument was, well, police and fire, they can't come through. Well, they don't. I've just seen there's been issues like up the street on the Kennesaw area. They come in from Don Tyson and come this way. And whereas if they're on this side of it, they come in off of Old Missouri.
I can address that just a little bit, and I think I got, is Chief here? Yes. So if I say something wrong, you correct me, but with a certain number of homes, you've got to have at least two in and outs. And they've got to be because let's say we closed it off, and I'm throwing out there because I don't think that could ever happen. But let's say we did, and the way you say the emergency vehicles come in was for some reason blocked, and they couldn't get in.
Well, you could say that of any situation. You could say that of any situation. There's lots of neighborhoods
you
where
can,
it's
but
a,
that's-
where it's
these
a
are-
one inlet. There's tons of neighborhoods where there's just one inlet.
But the number of dwelling places in those one in and out are limited.
But then
There's
when
not
you,
as many.
when you make it two, then it's only that number of places in that one place. And then
I'm
there's,
just going to tell you, fire code wouldn't allow it, so, and we don't have any say over that.
the math just doesn't add up on that.
Well, a lot of things with fire code don't add up to me too, but that's.
If it's two neighborhoods, it's less people. It's less in each neighborhood.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Patsy, what was the vote with the planning commission on this?
Dale, do you remember? That's what I thought. It was unanimous. I mean,
7-0?
7-0
somebody was
because
gone, I think.
somebody was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 7-0.
Any other comments? Come on back up.
At the zoning commission, like my husband said, we had 7 days to try to get our stuff together before we met with the zoning. We had no idea what they were even putting back there other than multifamily, all right? And Mr. Parsley and I think Patsy kind of helped us along getting it just to MF12. And I think that there was also a boundary. And so that's why it was voted on 7-0. We haven't had time, guys. You have not given us enough time as homeowners to make a really good stand.
Thank you.
I can say the applicant met all the requirements. The notices were sent out as they are required to do with a certified list. The notice was put in the newspaper. The signs were posted on the property. The procedure was followed with this one as they are on all of them. Nothing different on this one.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions?
I have some questions if there aren't any more from the audience.
Yeah.
Patsy, what's the reason for the C5 zoning request?
They're asking for commercial development along a major highway.
So they want a commercial development, don't have any specific plans?
Anything that is allowed in a C5 zone can go in those properties. That's the same thing we come up with every time.
Okay.
And C5 has a little bit larger of an area of uses than a C2 zone.
I think our code says that it's the C5 zoning is supposed to serve the needs of the motoring public, transient sleeping, eating, drinking establishments, uses not compatible with pedestrian-oriented commercial districts and shopping centers since they tend to obstruct and interfere with pedestrian movement.
It is on Highway 265.
That's what our definition is.
Right, and it's on Highway 265.
I
That is a
understand.
major regional
throughway.
throughway.
How many MF 12 or 16 zonings do we have in this area?
I cannot tell you off the
We
top
have
of my
none.
head. Well, we have, Brookhaven probably has that density, but it's a PUD.
No, it's a PUD.
Right.
The one north of the school is an MF4.
The apartments that went in on Electric Avenue went in as conditional.
MF4.
Well, some of them went in as conditional uses in a
None of
C2
them are
zone
zoned,
when multifamily was allowed as a conditional use in a
but
C2.
we don't have any zoning in this area for anywhere close for MF12 or MF16. And the idea for MF16 is for high-density apartments, correct?
It is 16 units per acre, yes.
Explain to me how it's not incompatible if you're designing a area for C5 commercial, which is not pedestrian-friendly, and put in multifamily apartments, which obviously you're going to have a lot of people in, and pedestrians. How are those compatible?
Well, you're creating, one aspect of it would be creating a buffer between the residential in the back to a higher density before you get to the commercial.
Your planning map shows the buffer between the single-family residentials and the commercial is light commercial, C1, not MF16.
Our comprehensive land use plan does not show any places in the city planned ahead for multifamily development at high density. We did not put that on there not to put it into certain areas until the development community
Okay.
came up with proposals they wanted to bring
We
to
want to
us.
we want to rezone this because the developer wants to put in multifamily, right?
Well, we're using it as a buffer between the commercial that comes along the road and the multifamily that's to that. Maybe 16's too high, but we stepped it down to 12.
There is no multifamily adjacent to this. This would be, you talk about spot zoning. This is there's no MF12 or MF16 in the area at all.
Do you have some areas of town picked out for MF12 and MF16?
No, but why are you deciding that all of a sudden, because a developer wants to do it, that you want to go ahead and approve MF12 or MF16 in an area? And these folks, I've been working with these folks in this area since 2015, and what they were talking about, and they've had several meetings, and they met with the street committee. They've petitioned the police department. They've had the traffic counts out there. What happens? Traffic comes down Palisades. It hangs a left on Kennesaw, and then it hits Chateau and Buckhead, pops out on Powell Street. And to say if you put in 168 units, to say there's not going to be an additional problem with traffic there, and it really doesn't make any sense at all. I can't find any reason why we would go to this kind of density for multifamily houses when there isn't even, why, if we've got MF4 around, why is that not enough? The closest thing to this is SF3, the townhouses, just immediately north. And there's only two C5 zonings on 265 between Don Tyson and this property. The one immediately to the north of this, and the one where the liquor store is on the corner of Don Tyson and 265. So for the life of me, I cannot see how this is benefiting. And what we're really doing is when people, like Ms. Husband said, there are a lot of folks that take a look at our land use map and take confidence in it. But when we decide to plop this number of multifamily units into backing up to a single-family residential area that these people have invested their time, money, and interest in, really doesn't make a lot of sense. I cannot see how that's benefiting the city of Springdale to put this cluster on there. Commercial property, not a problem. Yeah, that's a commercial zone through there, but it's certainly in the multifamily zone. And if you go down on Electric Avenue, at least those apartments that are down there feed off Electric. They're not going to be feeding off of 265. But for the life of me, I can't see that this is a reasonable zoning for this particular piece of property with the multifamily properties on there.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I tend to look at these areas like this, and I know that, it's not going to stay A1 forever. I understand that. But I also look at what's established in that area and what could come in to help enhance that area. And I'm not real comfortable with this type of density enhancing that area. I think it would cause more issues in that area than it would enhance that area. And whoever the developer on this, I kind of agree with Mike, is we don't want to just fill up a piece of land just to fill up a piece of land. We want it to be the best interest of the city as a whole, but we also want to be able to accommodate the area that's already established. And I'm not sure that this will accommodate the area that's already established.
And to Mike and Brian's point, my concern, and I'm sorry that it doesn't ever seem to come up in the conversations, is the impact it will have on the schools too. I think that is something that needs to be considered. You give me that look, and I know you've got a prepared speech.
That's something we try. That's something we try to get the school districts to weigh in on the impact of this development on the districts. And if they don't provide us information, what can we do?
Well, again, I understand, but I think there's some very valid points that have been made by these people and by the people sitting at this table about the density of this particular piece of
So
land.
if it was MF12, would it work better?
I don't have the answers tonight, Patsy.
Okay,
I don't.
what is the density that we're talking about? I mean,
My
we
question
need to
is regarding
provide-
the impact
well,
on the schools.
We need to provide
And
a
the traffic.
variety of housing in Springdale.
I truly understand that.
We do, but we need to be compatible to enhance the area without oversaturating the area, in my opinion, because we already have established residences there. We can bring in a duplex or a townhome or whatever that would enhance the property, but just to unload and build such high density in one area that's not surrounded by high density, I just don't think that's the right move for an area. I agree, commercial, I have no problem with that. But that amount of density in
I
that
think the
location.
density level is high density is not 16. High density is 24, 48. You know, this is really more on a medium density level than a high density. High density is 24 units, and we didn't have the request for 24
If this was in
units.
any other location that was not established already with that, I would agree with you. But I don't agree with that where it is now.
Brian, when you say an area, what are you referring to? How big
Sorry?
of an area? When you say to enhance an area, how big
Well,
of an area?
if you look at the housing that's around there already, established single-family housing, we need something that'll complement that. And we have, in other areas where we've had single-family housing, we have broke it up to where we had duplexes and then single-family homes, because you can have a more density in that area. But this here, you're putting an MF16 right on top of single-family homes in a confined area. And there's nowhere else around there that does that at that density. You've got your ingress and egress, which is not a lot right there, and that's going to cause some more issues in there, in my opinion, coming off 265.
So like a few weeks ago when we had the development over across from Butterfly that was duplexes and a housing development, you know, that was turned down, you would think that would be more suitable to this area than it was, I guess, or across from Butterfly.
That was duplexes and single-family homes, and in that area, they were wanting the duplexes up front. We asked to put duplexes to actually flop them around so it'd be more uniform with the housing and with the park right there. And that's fine in that area for me. And that's what I was looking at, something like this. It's just hard for me to approve something, you put that much high density with already established single-family homes in that area right there, and you just pile it up in one area. Any other area, to me, I think it'd work fine.
Well, we do have this in other, come on, Clint. We do have what's being asked here in other areas of Springdale. And my concern is that and this goes back a long ways and for some very good reasons, that we are living with this perception, some of us that have been around here a long time, that when we hear apartments, when we hear multifamily, we automatically push back. And I'm gonna tell you, you look at Rogers, you look at Fayetteville, you look at all the quality multifamily going up, and we had better get in that game or we're gonna continue to struggle. And it's about being well managed and it's about being quality built. And those are my concerns. And we've got standards in place now that weren't in place back when that stuff was going on that we all regret. So I just think we can paint with a broad brush very easily. And I understand Brian's being very particular to this site. I understand Mike's arguments. So I just ask you to weigh everything carefully because we're fast getting a reputation that I think we put a moratorium. This was before my time. I think we put a moratorium on apartments years and years ago because of a reputation. I think the pendulum has swung too far the other way, and I think we'd better be very thoughtful about that because now millennials and younger families, folks, many of them prefer apartments now and prefer that lifestyle. And we're pushing them out of Springdale if we don't have that in our supply. And we are woefully short when compared with other cities around us in that housing stock. Sorry, Mr. Representative, go ahead. I don't know which side you're on this, but I went ahead and jumped ahead of you.
No, Clint Penzo, 6374 Apple Shed. I wanted to just remind everybody that there is from a real estate perspective, there is a property owner here that is trying to sell a piece of property, and this is the best use for that property. I mean, it's on a busy highway. Someone mentioned that every realtor they spoke to is going to say it's going to negatively impact that subdivision. I find that hard to believe as a real estate agent, because the north side of the subdivision has a high-density apartment complex on it. There's 3 across the street, and there's a block factory just down the street from it. So, I mean, this is the appropriate place for an apartment complex. It's the best use for the land, and you can't sell a piece of land if the whole thing's not going to be used for commercial. You're paying commercial prices. You have to maximize the use of the land, and you can't put single-family properties on it. But anyway, I just wanted to remind you that there is a property owner here that is trying to sell a piece of property. They're not here this evening, so I just wanted to speak on their behalf and ask that you approve the project. Thank you.
Sure.
And I do sympathize with the landowner, and we are not objecting to the commercial. I appreciate this. I can't see your name, Brian. Thank you so much, because and I think he said it the way we would like it said. That much multifamily right around the edge of that property is not a good use for it. You're going to hear in resolution C, D, and E after me, after us. And one of them's an MF12, one of them's MF16, and another one's MF16. So we're meeting a good quota there, but we don't have to do it behind our house. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Brian Moore with Engineering Services. When we laid this project out, a couple of things. Number one, the C5 zoning, Mr. Overton, is for drive-throughs. You have to have C5 if you want drive-throughs.
That's correct.
So
which is not
that's
compatible with
that,
pedestrian traffic. By definition.
I would tell you that the reason we're doing C5 zoning is so that we can have drive-throughs, whether it's a...
No question.
So the other thing I would like to bring up is if you would have to leave the apartment complex and turn left across traffic to turn left to go west. Okay? Now, if they're coming back from the school, maybe they'll cut through. But I don't think you're going to wait to cross traffic to go up to turn left to cut over to Powell Street. I mean, that's.
But will you agree that there isn't any other MF12 or MF16?
There is high density apartments all over through there. It may not be a MF12 zoning, but it may be a conditional use C2 zoning.
The highest
or
zoning they have
that.
is MF4 in the area, and that's it.
I would tell you that the Electric Avenue apartments would be more than that. But anyway, the other thing that I would like to bring up is that when we laid this out for the apartments, behind their house is actually a park. Okay, so if y'all would pull up the Planning Commission that is an approved large scale pending this rezoning, obviously. When we laid out the subdivision, the apartment complex, there's not a house or not a unit within 70 feet of a property line. Okay, we did that on purpose to make sure that we're not close to the single family. The northwest portion is the park that, instead of putting it in the middle, when we met with Patsy, we decided to put it there so that it would be away from the single family. So we've got a great buffer. I don't think we have any parking within 50 feet of the property line, whereas, their houses are within 35, 40 feet of the property line. We adjusted it to go back. When we laid this out, we looked at that, and that was one of the reasons that we shifted everything. And if you look at the layout, there's very little around the west and north sides. So and that was done on purpose. So just for that, we were very cognitive of what was around us when we laid it
How
out.
deep is the MF-12 that shows on?
The MF-12's 50 feet, yes. If we wanted to make
So
it, if
basically-
we wanted to make it 75, that'd be fine. I don't have any problem with that. We don't have a structure. I think it's 65 feet, but if we wanted to adjust it, we
I guess the
could.
idea that the planning commission did on that was just in case this project didn't go through.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, but I think this is a good project for Springdale. It has a pool, it has a clubhouse, it has tenant storage. This is a developer out of Fort Smith that have done them in Rogers, and they're doing one in Tawnytown as well now. This is a project, as Patsy once, I think it was Patsy that said, y'all have design standards in place, or maybe the mayor actually, that we've not really seen yet. Yeah, they may be 8 or 10 years old, but we really haven't built that many up until now. It has to do with how much masonry has to be on, et cetera, et cetera. So, anyway, I really think this is good, and I hope y'all vote for it. Thank you.
Any other comments before we vote? We have a motion and a second to approve. Hi, Denise.
Evans,
Yes.
Powell,
No.
Jaycox,
No.
Williams,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton.
No.
Fulfer,
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 5-3. Patsy, did you want to talk about why there's an emergency clause, since the gentleman made a reference to it?
Well, there is a pending development that's ready to move forward if the emergency clause is approved.
And I'd like for Ernest to explain exactly what the emergency clause does, because it seemed to be they thought if we didn't pass the emergency clause, there might be room to change something.
All the emergency clause does is make the ordinance effective immediately, as opposed to waiting the 30 days before it goes into effect.
And it doesn't come back.
Correct, it doesn't
It
come
doesn't
back.
come back for this body for consideration again. They just wait 30 days.
All
We
right.
have to have a motion to approve the emergency clause, so. Oh, no, we waived all those, didn't we?
So what's your pleasure on the emergency clause?
Okay, no emergency clause, so it'll go into effect in 30 days.
All right.
Okay. The next item is a request to rezone about 12 acres at the northwest corner of the intersection of Electric Avenue and Oriole Street. This is directly south of Linda Childers Knapp Elementary School. The request is to rezone the property from I-2 to MF-12. The Planning Commission recommends approval of this rezoning request. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto by rezoning certain lands from General Industrial District I-2 to Medium Density Multifamily Residential District MF-12 and declaring an emergency.
Move the ordinance pass.
Second.
Hey, we've got a motion and a second. Anyone need to speak to this one? Any questions or comments?
Once again, Patsy, was the vote unanimous?
And you can see there are apartments to the east, to the west of this. They are all in a C2 zone. Those all came in as conditional uses. The property to the west of it has mostly single-family homes. It's zoned MF4. When we did the upgrade of the zoning districts, because of the lot sizes, it went to MF4 instead of a single-family, because the lot sizes wouldn't meet an SF2.
You said to the west of it, but you're talking
I mean,
about
to the east, I'm
of it.
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Patsy, I would like to say that I received an email that I forwarded to you, Mayor, from an East program of one of our schools, and they have a concern about there not being sidewalks along Electric Avenue. With all of the multi-family housing over there, there's many students that are walking Electric Avenue around the industrial without sidewalks, and to Linda Childers Knapp and J.O. Kelly
Well, this
Middle
developer
School.
will be required to put in sidewalks along their frontage.
I think
as
I
part
think
of the
where
development.
they're
Maybe a
referencing is
discussion.
further west.
Yeah.
But there are sidewalks on the south side of the street, from what I saw, just not on the north side.
Okay.
But which means the kids have to cross the street.
Right.
So we may want to look at some safe crossings or
Yeah,
try
they are required to put sidewalk across their portion of it, which will get it down to Oriole Street, all the way down to, there's a little triangle in there that, I'm not quite sure what happened there. And I think, is there sidewalks there in front of those apartments? Quite honestly,
Remember.
I gotta go drive out there.
I taught at Linda Childers Knapp
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, but I just know there's a lot of foot traffic with
Yeah,
those
there
little
is.
ones
From
along
what I
Electric
looked at, if I'm
Avenue.
looking at the right place, Amelia, there are sidewalks on the south side.
Mm-hmm.
But on the north side, they stop, and then there's a long area between where they stop and Highway
Oriole Street.
265
Okay.
that where a sidewalk's not there.
But they'd have to do it with this development, though.
They have to do it with this development.
Right, but that has nothing to do with further west.
And where we look at the others, we'd have to look at how sidewalks could be built
As
with.
those
I just
develop,
want to
they
put
do.
that in everybody's mind, to be thinking about that and going forward, that, maybe we need to have a discussion on putting sidewalks there.
The more cost-effective way to address that right now would be to make sure we have some safe ways for the kids to cross to get to the sidewalk on the south side. But
How much farther is it from this property up to 265? You know?
quite a ways.
It's a pretty
Quite a
good
ways.
distance.
Yeah, it's a pretty good distance.
Yeah.
Well, there's sidewalks in front of those apartment complexes that are there now.
There is. Yeah.
It'd just be connected to
Yeah,
that.
where the sidewalk stops on the north side, I think it's quite a bit west of this.
There's a little gap in there because that little.
Yeah.
No, they walk up to the Oriole, and then they cross
And they
there.
cross.
But the traffic coming
Yeah.
the opposite direction is the problem, because there's a hill there, and you cannot see over that hill.
Yeah.
So I think people would prefer not to have to cross there, or for their children not to have to cross there.
Okay.
We do not have a development plan for this piece of property yet, either. It's just to rezone it to be developed as MF12.
All right, any other questions or comments? Anyone in the audience? Okay, Denise?
Powell,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 8-0.
With the emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Emergency clause carries 8-0.
The next item is a rezoning request to rezone .95 acres. It's the backside of the church on Pleasant Street. It's being incorporated with the property that is along Wesley Avenue. The original request, again, was to rezone the entire piece of property MF16. After the discussion we had on the previous property, when we got to this one, the same request was made to reduce the property, the rezoning that backs up to those single-family homes to MF12, and that's the rezoning request that you have now. It would be .79 acres would be MF16 and .16 acres. And if you go to the next slide, I think there's a drawing that shows that. I mean, it's probably the next one. Yeah, you'll see that very little portion. It's that same, so that there wouldn't be anything taller than 2 stories adjacent to those houses along that street. Planning Commission reviewed this request and recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the City of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto, by rezoning certain lands from low, medium-density, single-family residential district, SF2, to medium-density multifamily district, MF12, and medium-high-density multifamily residential district, MF16, declaring an emergency.
The ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Other comments or questions? Yes.
My name is Tammy Davis, and I'm one of the single-family homes there. And I just want to make sure that when it moved from M16 to M12, that we still have the buffer of 50 feet? Yes. I just want to make sure of that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Patsy, that buffer that you're talking about, the MF12, is kind of, it's on the south side of that little,
Yes,
strip,
that backs
right?
up to those single-family homes. It's
Was that
adjacent.
not a single-family home to the
No, that's part of the
west?
apartment complex.
Oh, those apartment
Yeah,
complexes?
there's apartment complexes to the west. Been there a really long time.
So I'm having a hard time understanding, what's the property to the east of this? That's where the church is?
Yeah,
That's the church.
the church is selling this back portion of their property to be attached
Church of
to
Christ
the.
there, I think.
Yeah,
Jeff.
to be attached to the property along Wesley Street. It can't stand on its own
Oh, to
because it
be
doesn't.
attached to Wesley Street.
Right, which is the next rezoning. But as the property owner being the church, they had to be the applicant on this
So
one.
this property will actually access off of West End.
West End Street?
Right, it's all part of that same project that we get to is the next one. It can be split off by itself because it would be landlocked. It doesn't have any access, it has no frontage, so it has to be attached to that other piece of property.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I figured out what was going on there.
Okay, anything else? All right, Denise?
Williams,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes. Move the emergency clause pass.
Second.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
About the ordinance emergency clause, carry 8-0.
Okay, the next request is to rezone 4.57 acres located on Wesley Avenue. It's just that property just south of Highway 412. The request is to rezone it from C2 to MF16, and as we just said, that little piece you can see on there is attached to it on the east side. Planning Commission recommends approval of this rezoning request. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the City of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto by rezoning certain lands from general commercial district C2 to medium high-density multifamily residential MF16 and declaring an emergency.
The ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions or comments? What about in the audience? Anybody? All right, Denise. Whoop, whoop, whoop. You all right?
Seems like an awful lot of M12 and M16 zoning.
All right, Denise.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Will the emergency clause be adopted?
Second.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 8-0.
The next request is for a conditional use for a use unit 41 automobile sales in a C2 district to be located at 2305 South Thompson. Planning Commission reviewed this request and are recommending the approval of the conditional use with the condition that the number of vehicles for sale on the lot at any one time not exceed 15. The applicant agreed to that condition. Planning Commission recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads a resolution approving a conditional use at 2305 South Thompson as set forth in ordinance number 4030.
Will the resolution be adopted?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution, right? Or is it an ordinance? It's a resolution. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Anyone in the audience on this one? Okay, Denise?
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
The next item is also a request for a conditional use for a use unit 41 automobile sales in a general commercial district C2. This is located at 38 Elm Springs Road. Planning Commission reviewed this request and recommends it be approval with the condition that there be no more than 4 vehicles for sale on the lot at one time. The property owner is agreeable to that. Those 4 vehicles would be parked right in front of the offices there. That's not really their main business, but they want the ability to sell not more than 4 cars at one time. Planning Commission recommends approval. The title of the resolution reads, "A resolution approving a conditional use set at 3885 Elm Springs Road is set forth in ordinance number 4030."
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other comments or questions?
So the 3857, that would be a separate business?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody in the audience? Okay, Denise?
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
8-0.
The next is a resolution, again, for a conditional use. This is for a use unit 28, a home occupation in a single-family residence at 4007 Holt. It will be an embroidery business. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the conditional use with the following conditions. No alteration of the outside appearance of the residential structure, provision of separate outside entrance for the business areas of the residential structure, no outside storage of materials required for the operation of the business, operated only by the resident members of the household and shall not have any employees, concierge, or any other form of operator or helper, whether such business is conducted on the premises or off the premises, requires the use of an area no greater than 30% of the total heated living space of the residential structure, generates no traffic, parking, and sewage or water use in excess of what is normal in the residential neighborhood, will not produce any fumes, odors, noise, or any other offensive effects that are normal to residential activity, will not involve accessory buildings, stock and trade shall not exceed 10% of the floor area of the accessory use.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further comments or questions? Anyone need to speak to this? Okay, Denise?
Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 8-0.
All right, item 13, Personnel Committee, Chairman Kathy Jaycox. Kathy?
Yes, Gina, the city is proposing, HR is proposing a personnel policy change regarding bullying. Gina, is there anything particular you'd like to, an anti-bullying policy?
Anti-bullying policy, it does differ from our harassment policy in that the harassment policy addresses inappropriate behavior that's based on protected class such as age, gender, ethnicity. The anti-bullying policy addresses behavior that doesn't quite fit into that category but's still inappropriate, and it's been recommended to us by the Municipal League.
We did take out some wording on that.
Yes, we did.
Move the resolution be adopted.
Thank you. Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Any other questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, Denise?
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Powell?
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
All right, item 14 is Ordinance Committee, Chairman Mike Overton. Mike?
We have one ordinance, Mayor, that was brought to us. It was ordinance amending Chapter 78 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Springdale, Arkansas, declaring an emergency for other purposes, and the city attorney can give us the details.
Thank you, Mr. Overton. This would change the ordinance that pertains to intoxicating beverages within a city park to allow, to make an exception for events approved by the city through the Public Events Advisory Committee and taking place at Walter Turnbow Park.
And you might explain this area we're talking about, Walter Turnbow Park. So
Right,
that
it's adjacent to Shallow Square, which would be south of Johnson Avenue and north of Emma.
And it does not include any other parks in the city.
No, just Walter Turnbow Park and just for those particular events.
Right. It would go through the same approval process that we use for Shiloh Square DSA brought this forward, and Jill's here if you have any questions for her. I know she'll be up in a few minutes, but it allows some programming options for larger events that we may want to spill over, or DSA may want to spill over out into Walter Turnbow Park.
Hopefully, they don't spill anything else.
Yeah,
in
don't
Walter
spill anything
Turnbull.
else. Spill over was probably not a good metaphor, so.
I'll move the ordinance pass.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions?
Can you reiterate, as we discussed the other night, who all is on this committee?
Yes, we have, our Public Events Committee has city representation from Parks and Rec, from Public Works, from Police Department, Fire Department, Planning Department. Am I missing anybody? And then DSA. Yeah.
And we currently already have one event that I know of, the Chicken Peel and Politicking, which is a large event for the entire state, political event, and I know we utilize Shiloh Square in that way already, and this would just allow for that too.
Right. This would go through the same process. Yeah. All right. And of course, ABC approval would be required just as it is for other events. Okay, Denise?
Williams,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Wolfer,
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Emergency clause.
Hasn't it? I'll move the emergency clause pass.
Second.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 8-0.
All right, thank you. Item 15 is Street and Capital Improvements Committee report. Chairman Rick Evans. Rick?
We have a meeting last week, Street and CIP, have 3 resolutions on the agenda tonight, and all of them were brought forward from the committee recommended for approval. And the first one is a resolution authorizing the execution of a construction manager contract for road improvements, and this is for the area of Spring Street between Johnson Avenue and Huntsville Avenue. Milestone for $5,000 pre-construction service.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other questions or comments?
In here it says there would be several opportunities for cost savings. Do we have any kind of estimate on what we'd be saving by doing this?
I don't think we've got a dollar amount to it. It just makes sense that as they're working on as they're doing the criminal justice project, that's kind of the same rationale we've used when we also did the same thing, or doing the same thing with County Line Road and West Downham and Ball around our park project. That they're kind of taking that on all together, and when you're talking about dirt work, when you're talking about other things, and mobilization. I think there's a good rationale there for capturing some savings.
Sometimes we discuss a lot of these things in our committee, and we fly through them in our
Yeah.
council meeting, and so I just wanted to make that out there so that people would
That's
understand
good.
what we're doing.
That's good. Anybody else? Okay.
Overton,
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Powell.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
Okay, and next we have a resolution authorizing the conveyance of land owned by the city of Springdale to JHT LLC in exchange for dedication of land for public street, and this is basically on the west side of the interstate, north side of Don Tyson, where we got some little pieces of land we had left over when we built the interstate, Don Tyson, to where we could basically donate to or dedicate to these folks for part of the right-of-way they're giving us to get into the land.
I'll move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, Denise?
Wolfer. Yes.
Watson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams? Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes. Carries 8-0.
Okay, and last, we have a resolution authorizing the execution of a construction contract for the extension of Ford Avenue, and when the bids were opened, and TriStar contractor was a low bidder for $4,870,015.87.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will say there were some questions raised about this, and Brad went the extra mile along with ESI to vet this bid and the winning bid contractor, and they're satisfied that we should move forward with it. So,
Okay.
appreciate you bringing up that question, though. All right. Any other comment or questions? Okay, Denise.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans? Yes, ma'am. Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Fulfer?
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
All right, item 16, Finance Committee report, Chairman Jeff Watson. Jeff?
Finance Committee met and considered two items. First is a resolution. I'll read the title to the resolution. A resolution authorizing an expenditure from the Court Automation Fund for technology related to expenses for the Springdale Department of the Washington County District Court. The resolution had to do with the purchase from the court's automation fund for bulletproof or bullet-resistant metal to be used at the entrance of the district court at a total cost not to exceed $2,000. It's my understanding that once the court is moved, that this structure will be available to be used by the police department, so it would be moved to the police department, is the way I understood it. And the Finance Committee did forward this resolution to the council with a recommendation for approval.
Resolution
This will be
pass.
adopted.
Oh, sorry. Second.
Got a motion and a second down there. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Denise?
Evans? Yes, ma'am. Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Fulfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 8-0.
The next item that the Finance Committee brings to the council has to do with an ordinance for the approval of a contract with the Downtown Springdale Alliance. The title to that ordinance is an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to enter into a contract with the Downtown Springdale Alliance to promote, preserve, enhance downtown Springdale and to facilitate the implementation of the downtown master plan, to waive competitive bidding and for other purposes. This is authorizing the mayor enter into this contract. The Finance Committee did forward this ordinance to full council with a recommendation for approval.
With the orders do pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Jill's ready to, Jill, do you want to start with a explanation and
Just
presentation?
very briefly, council and mayor, I just want to thank y'all. I came in here, I think about a year ago at your last January meeting and said hello for the first time, and it's been a fabulous year. I'm absolutely feel at home here. I'm very thankful for your leadership and the time that you invest in your community. What we have going on all across Springdale and Northwest Arkansas is exciting, but I think what's the most exciting is what we have happening in downtown Springdale. It's just really exciting to see the new city offices that are going up right behind us here. And very soon, in just about the next 30 or 60 days, we'll see groundbreaking on a very large project on Emma, and there's more to come. We have had the opportunity with your support to do a lot more activations and grow the activations that we had in the past, such as Ozarktober and the street dinner and Christmas on the Creek. And we are expanding this year in the spring, a Spring Creek music concert series. Thank you for your support tonight in the ordinance to be able to grow and expand that project. I believe also that will help expand some of the other programs that we already have, such as the chicken picking and politicking and the street dinner, and it'll really add a lot to downtown with that. So what you have in front of you is a spreadsheet that kind of breaks down what you have contracted with DSA to handle on behalf of the city throughout the year, and it shows you the hours that, roughly the hours that we spent, and an estimate of how we are spending our time based on that contract in serving the city of Springdale. Thank you again for the opportunity. I'm going to let you guys answer questions, and also you were handed a list of events that were approved through the Public Events Committee. These are not all of the events that are downtown. This does not include events that the Jones Center or ACO or Shiloh Museum or a lot of the private businesses also put on that do not require them, events that aren't required to go through the Public Events Committee. These events are primarily what requires us to either close the street, close Emma, or to utilize Shiloh Square, and expanding that to Turnbow Park this year. So there's a lot of events, and DSA also spends a lot of time marketing these events. We're kind of like the marketing branch for downtown. We put it out on our social media and really promote those events for downtown Springdale. So I'm going to let you guys ask questions. What do you have for me?
Well, you did leave off, when you talked about next year's events, or this year's events, you did leave off the 45th high school reunion of the class of 75.
Yes, there is a very important, and I've secured the reservations for that today.
There have been
Mr. Watson's part of that too, by the way.
There have been a number of orders for black roses, Mary.
Any questions?
All right, anyone in the audience?
So real quick,
Oh, go
thanks,
ahead.
Jill, for your leadership for the DSA and for what you have done to, you and the board, your board, have done to make a difference in coordinating the efforts of people in downtown.
Thank you very much. I very much enjoy it, and thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.
Great. All right. No one else has a question?
Powell,
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Fulfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Does have an emergency clause.
With the emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Fulfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Powell?
Yes.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 8-0.
All right, thank you. Before, Ernest, before we go to 17, I just want to recognize Scott is here. Scott, I thought you were going to get up during public comments, and you didn't. We may let Ernest, we may go ahead and deal with this last, and then if the council would indulge, I know you've handed out your economic development report. Maybe you can just come and speak briefly to it after Ernest finishes this item.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for setting. Scott, this is probably the first city council meeting that you stayed for the whole meeting, so. Good. All right, Ernest.
This is an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to file a cleanup lien for the removal of overgrown brush and debris on property located within the city of Springdale, Arkansas, 1500 Carlton and 804 Virginia.
Move the order to pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Anyone? Okay, Denise.
Williams?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Yes.
Overton? Fulfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Has emergency clause.
Move the emergency clause be passed.
Second.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Fulfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Powell?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 8-0.
Okay, Scott?
All right. Thank you, Mayor Sprouse. And I did leave each of you a copy of the fourth quarter economic development report. And as Jill said, a lot of good things going on in Springdale. We've been very busy working with several manufacturing firms on whether it be a new location looking to come to relocate to Springdale, or some existing manufacturers that have a couple of expansion projects going on. Just some things to hit some highlights real quick. Our job numbers, January through November 2019, we're up 2,448 jobs. That's a big increase, over 1,362 jobs in 18. And then, of course, sales tax receipts, you may be aware, are up 4.9% for the year in 2019 over 2018. Unemployment rate still one of the lowest in the state at 2.1%. And another item of note, construction permits, the rise in our commercial permits for 2019. There were 74 in 2019 compared to 40 in 2018. So you can see and the residential numbers are up quite a bit as well. And several things in whack with their grand opening. They have 878 students enrolled at the Springdale campus that opened this semester. Of course, had the groundbreaking downtown for Little Emma on East Emma. BNSF Logistics is working. They're close to being completed at their building. And then US Able, that's Blue Cross Blue Shield subsidiary, groundbreaking scheduled in May for their new facility out off of Don Tyson and I-49. So a lot of good things going on. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. So.
Is BNSF, are they moving from building to building, or are they going to have two buildings?
From my understanding, they're going to use both buildings. So.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you very much.
All right, any comments from council?
Yes, sir. I want to publicly thank Vivi Haney for her service. I got to work with her for over 7 years on the Planning Commission, and she is one hard worker, and she did a lot of great things for us. I think she improved the city council on some of the recommendations she sent up to council. So I just want to publicly thank Vivi for her service to our city. She did an awesome job.
Sir, we're going to try and find a way to keep her busy too. She wants to stay involved, and I bet she's got a lot to offer our city for sure. Thanks, Brian. Any comments from city attorney?
No, sir.
I got one. If you haven't, I went by the rec center today, looking great, burning. And I see Chad over there. Yeah, Chad's here. They're putting down. Go by, walk through the next couple of days. They're putting down the rubber. They've taken up the old carpet around the basketball courts and around the soccer fields, and they're putting rubber around the soccer fields today, and then they'll do the basketball courts, I think, tomorrow. Start on it anyway. So hopefully by this weekend, that'll all be done. They've started the new HVAC system. Roof's completed, and so but it continues to improve. So stop by and look at it when you have a chance. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Yep.